Eduard? Что они там начинают? Я что-то вообще не пойму, что не происходит. Hi, Liz.
Hello. Are we early? I thought we still had an hour.
I think we still have to 1 hour, much more than an hour, because it's at 6 GMT, right?
I thought. Hang on, my headphone fell out. I thought. I'm not sure if it's 6 or 5 or 6. I have a little bit of a head cold.
Sorry. Sorry. 1 second. Yeah, it's 5 GMT. So it's so it's in half an hour, right? In 40 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything we need to do beforehand, or are we just?
I'm afraid there is a diffusion of responsibility, and nobody prepared agenda or materials. So perhaps we could do that.
Okay. You know what? Why don't I get off of here? And I was going to do this anyway. I was going to print out like a basic education sheet, so so that everybody has, like, you know, some basic definitions and whatnot, and I'll send that out.
That would be perfect. Now, do you need any help in terms of legal stuff, or will you be okay for now? We don't have to do it perfectly now. We can just start the topic.
Right. I probably won't have much information on legal stuff because it varies so much by country and state, but I'll put a little bit of that on it too. Do you think that while I do that, you could come up with like kind of like, well, we'll start talking about the general aspects, and then maybe the legal repercussions, or whatever, you know, just like a guideline to follow during the meeting, and I'll put together the educational sheet.
Could you please repeat? What do you want? Do you want me to do, like, introduction?
Yeah, well, maybe just you know, an outline of how the conversation should go.
Yes. What is your plan? How do you want it to go?
Well, I think that we should start with an introduction of ideas and reviewing the material that I send, and then hopefully everyone will have, well, I don't know, they're not going to have much time now, and then we'll work into, you know, legal aspects. And did Didier get his guest speaker to come?
He might. I'm not sure, because we spoke 1 hour ago or something, and he did not yet.
Okay, so I know that Mallory has information in this, but it sounded like Paul was not wanting her to join the call or something. I don't know.
I think Didier invited her anyway.
Okay, good, because she actually did a bunch of studies in this, and it seems really applicable, and I don't think that she's going to charge for information or anything like that. So
Yeah.
she would actually be a spokesperson on it. I just all of a sudden felt like when I got Paul's email that there was suddenly a problem, and so
Yeah, I think
I
he
didn't.
thinks that she is too rude to people sometimes, and he thinks that
Yeah.
it is a bit dangerous.
Yeah, and I think that she is, but I mean, we all have to learn to get along, and I don't want to see another Ilya problem happen where people are pointing people out and making backroom conversations because we kind of need each other.
Yes,
And it,
yes, yes, I agree, and we even need Ilya back.
yeah. So hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, I sent you some links of stem cell regulation worldwide. Do you have the same information? I remember seeing a table. It was put nicely into the table how it is being regulated. Basically, the issue was about embryonic and non-embryonic stem cells and so on.
I don't have that. If you can email it to me, I can't get links because I'm on an iPad. I don't get the links through the Hangout or through the Skype. So if you can email it to me, and I'm going to go now and try to put together that the teaser or whatever for the conversation. So let me work on that
Okay.
and send me what you have, and then hopefully we can get some information out.
Yes, and I suggest that we join this call 10 minutes prior the call because there may be too many people, and you and me should be on the call to make sure that this happens.
Okay. And I think that I was told that I'm taking notes for it.
Yeah, but it's difficult to take to moderate and to take notes. I could take notes for you if you feel it's needed. If yeah.
Sure. I don't know if I'm the best moderator, but I'll do my best to make sure everyone has time to talk.
Okay, but also you should that it's going as it was planned. This
Right, right. But we don't have a planned guideline yet, so that's going to be. Whew. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let me put together this thing, or else we won't have anything, and we'll get it started. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. See you in a few minutes.
Так, у меня еще какой-то звонок. Какой дурдом. Окей.
Да.
Да.
Ну ладно.
Ой, вкусно. Сейчас я пожру.
А теперь посчитай по калориям, сколько это.
Не могу пока. А я же присоединилась к нему.
Hello.
Hello. Are you streaming something?
Me?
Oh no, I was talking to someone else. Sorry.
All
Oh,
right.
good morning. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you doing, Liz?
Good. I'm trying to get some basic information, so we have an outline of some. Uh, oh shoot! Now what have I done?
Excellent. That gives me just enough time to go get my cup of coffee.
Yeah. So some information. Yeah. Go, please.
All right.
Plain text and then change it. I'm going to be on a meeting, so would you please tell Aiden and then help him get something to eat? No, I mean now. I mean be quiet now. Thank you. Bang, bang. Okay. Okay, so great. All right, this is about as good as it's gonna get. Why does this have to do this? Come on. Okay, here we go. This should be good.
Hey everyone,
Hello, guys.
early birds.
Okay, so I just sent an email that basically has a general outline. It has those two maps and it has definitions for the basic things that we'll be talking about. I guess we could use it as an outline, but I think that I fear that we're going to have a legal discussion about something that no one has any legal background in, and so I'm a little bit worried about this not needing to be a very long. So maybe what we could do is spend it as educational time and get people up to speed with you know, stem cell use and definitions and the different types of cells used in stem cells and why some of them are legal and some of them are illegal, because that there is information behind that. Okay.
I could share the story of Russia, of how they tried to regulate these stem cells, about the bill in Russia on cell technologies. So, are we inviting other people?
I think we're just waiting now for this last email that I sent out has, it looks like it has everyone on it, I'm hoping, and it says the link to the Hangouts at the bottom. There's been plenty of reminders to all the same people that this is what time this is happening at, and Edward was nice enough to ensure that everyone realizes that that is now. So let's hope.
We're already quite a group. By the way, did you notice that my computer does not make horrible sounds anymore?
Oh, that's fantastic. What'd you do?
I bought another one.
Oh, good.
Good way to fix a computer.
Throw it out.
No. This one I will get it fixed, and I will have two.
Okay. Well, I'm going to apologize in advance. I woke up sick this morning, so not feeling
Get well.
I will, hopefully by this afternoon. I'll push for it. So let's see, let's give everyone a couple minutes. I'm going to go get some chocolate because chocolate will kind of wake me up. So I'll be right back, okay? Because we still have 2 minutes.
Awesome. I always I don't know when to speak. I try not to speak over people, so I left muted my mic. But hello, guys.
Hi.
Daria, are you in Moscow?
Yes.
Awesome.
And where are you?
Well, I'm in Oxford.
Okay, as usual. At your usual.
That is my usual. I wouldn't have this whole radio set up here unless I was at my desk, either at my office or at home.
Right, it looks like you're a really professional studio over there.
Well, I'm trying to build one because well, I don't have Liz's voice. I would love to have her voice or her consistent accent. But the best I can do is to buy a microphone. But ultimately, we wanted to do the interviews with have hangout sessions and do a podcast and things. And these are all inexpensive. So I'm trying to test out all the microphones and things. So. To see which ones are best and inexpensive, so we can have this set up everywhere. So you, Ilya, you, Daria, ultimately, once I get this completely done, I'm trying to keep it under like £50, like $75 or something like that, US dollars, so that then we can have this set up with the rest of us if we do a podcast, and then you can do interviews in different languages with different researchers, and we can have it hosted at our site and things.
Hey, Miriam.
Good, yeah.
Miriam, how are you? Yeah.
Hello. Hi.
Yes. Where are you? Are you in Germany?
Yes, I'm in Germany. Yes. So Munich, southern Germany. Just returned from Austria.
Yeah, so how are things going for you? Are you
What
doing
was that?
dishwashing?
Sounds like someone was in the restroom.
This kind of jokes always work. Hi, Paul. Hi, Anton.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey guys, good morning. What do we
Those
got?
guys who
Good morning.
arrive
Hey.
first get the place. Hi, Didier.
Hi.
Oh, wait. Are you going to be on the camera?
Hello,
One more
everyone.
lucky guy.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
Hello?
How many are we now? Let's see. I can't
9.
seem to. We're 9.
Oh, that's it.
9
House
people.
is full.
Okay.
9 people.
Like that.
Okay, it looks like we're full. So, let's see. We don't have much of an outline for this talk, but I did send some basic information. Did everyone receive the email with the basic information?
Yes,
Reading.
thank you.
So,
Well, actually, I only received the announcement. Should I receive something else?
let's see. You should. This is it is part of. It is still titled the reminder for the meeting, and it's from me. So it's from Liz Parrish. So maybe you have that in your email. If you don't, I mean, we can just basically run through this real quick because I think that just basic information is what everyone needs, and hopefully you do have the email somewhere. And I certainly didn't cover everything, but we should know what we're talking about because laws vary depending on what type of stem cell use we're talking about.
Well, actually, I haven't received anything, and that's why I even wrote a letter asking you or
Okay.
Didier to send some URLs about the matter and about
I'm
the
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I must have assumed that you were here. It's coming to you now. So
Yeah.
I must have assumed that you were part of the big list that I
We're on there on the
I thought I did see your name on there, so but I didn't expand the whole thing. Okay.
there.
Yes, you are. You are definitely in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I think that we should find out, do we have anyone who is a specialist in stem cell law on this call?
What about David Granovsky? Was he invited?
He is not a specialist on law. I contacted him. He says that he's really not. He is medical specialist.
by the way, I remember that Mallory used to learn some bioethics and some biological laws, but I'm not sure about her.
I know. Jennifer Chapman has a degree in biotechnology law, so we could have asked her. Didn't think.
I believe that Mallory was invited through these emails to this, and this is her area of expertise. Was stem cell culture, which is we should probably, if we're going to talk about that, that's essentially what it comes down to. The problems with the FDA in the U.S. All come down to the culture of those cells. So whether they're your cells or someone else's cells, the problem that the FDA has in the United States with stem cell use is that these are cells being taken out of the body and they are being manipulated. So right now in the United States, doctors are working on what's called minimal manipulation to cells. And a lot of people are rushing worldwide for a patent in what would be called minimally manipulated cells so that they could be used in the U.S. Some even initially they were using stem cells in cosmetic surgery, and they still are a bit, but a lot of those people are being shut down too. I had the opportunity of going to I was just invited one day. I didn't sign up for it. It's not my thing, but it's the American Aesthetics something or other. It's the cosmetic surgeons conference, and I went, and a lot of the cosmetic surgeons were actually being shut down in their use of stem cells. So the laws have gotten tighter and tighter of what it means to even use your own cells to heal your own body. And I think that this is the big sticking point, and this is probably where we would get the biggest wings in being a voice of reason in that case, because that's your rights to use your own cells. They're saying when your cells come out of your body and are put into a dish and any treatment is given to those cells, it becomes an area of the FDA to regulate how those cells are manipulated. Does that make sense?
Yes, very clear. Yeah.
Okay, so really quick, I think we should just, if you have the email, it's okay if you have it, it's okay if you don't, but we should just run through a few definitions so that we know what we're talking about. Autologous stem cells, so you know those are stem cells from your own body, okay? So that's your rights to use your own cells to potentially, for regenerative medicine, to cure disease. Allogenic stem cells, on the other hand, are stem cells from somebody else's body, okay? And mostly we see those in, let's see, bone marrow transplant. That would be a hematopoietic stem cell transplant that's using someone else's blood in your body, or you might see these in charlatan sort of endeavors where they're putting goat stem cells or stem cells from any other body into your body, okay? And then there's embryonic stem cells, and those actually took a huge back seat until just recently when somatic stem cell transplant is burgeoning again. We've actually just in the last few weeks had the clones of 2 men, and embryonic somatic stem cell is when they take the cell, the egg, and they actually take out the genetic material and they put the genetic material directly from like an iPS stem cell, which is a stem cell which would be an autologous stem cell, but they put it into an egg and they make a clone, so they can actually make clones of people, and that's where Dolly the sheep came from. Okay. But human embryonic stem cells in general are just from very, very young fertilized eggs. They're generally in the U.S. They only come from fertility clinics. They're cast-offs. They do not have a heartbeat. They do not have any differentiated cells. They are a hot topic, and they are what is generally the most regulated stem cell. So I'm going to give everyone a break and then let you guys talk for a while before we go through more of it.
Yes, so there was quite recently an issue of FDA when FDA decided that it's going to regulate this autologous stem cell transplantation just as therapies, and I guess before it was not regulated, right? Does anyone know what is happening there?
Autologous stem cells are actually being heavily regulated now. As a matter of fact, just a couple months ago, a doctor in Portland lost his license for treating a patient with their own cells. So it has become a bit of a witch hunt. At first, it was a bit a loose game, and a lot of people could do it. As a matter of fact, that was one of the problems. We had people who were massage therapists trying to find out how to manipulate stem cells and make more money by injecting people with their fat potentially right into their veins, which can cause serious problems, including stroke. But right now, autologous stem cells are pretty much shut down in the U.S. except for in clinical trials. That's why a lot of medical doctors have gone outside the U.S. and have opened up clinics in the Bahamas and Mexico, in South and Central America, where the laws are looser and they can treat patients with those cells.
And do we have a good summary of benefits and risks of such treatments? What are the evidences?
Yeah. Well, if I can interrupt, maybe that's another question, because I think it's an interesting question. I'm wondering myself also, but at the moment we are more speaking about the law aspects, and I think it's very interesting what you are saying already, Liz. And I had already one question that's about: there are no specific regulations when you use stem cells genetically modified and stem cells not modified, or it's a little bit, if I understand correctly, in your category, human embryonic? But for me, that's strange that there is no specific regulation in this case, because.
Well, I think. Right. Yeah. I think that's what the FDA is actually working towards. Is they're working towards actually creating some sort of regulation so that that's what they're having a hard time getting their head around. I would like to go back and just answer what Daria asked me, because there is actually a lot of good information and a lot of great outcomes in stem cells. There are studies, clinical trials that have been done through Stanford and Harvard for many years now with great effect. But the FDA, because medical doctors who often do the work outside of the country, I'm talking about the good ones, not the ones that are faking something or putting some crazy stuff in you. The doctors outside of the country say that they're having as good of results as the studies at Stanford and Harvard, but they're not doing them at a clinical level. So I'm part of an IRB. And IRBs, what they do is they go in and they set some regulations, and they help these stem cell medical doctors, if you want to call them that. They're medical doctors that use stem cells. They help them work by a standard so that there is follow-up and there is some sort of closer to clinical trial status for their work, so that there's more evidence. I think that what irritates a lot of these medical doctors is, for one thing, they don't really have the time to go by these standards, and two, that Harvard and Stanford come out with all of these, potential band-aids and partial cures for disease, and yet their work is shut down. So they really don't have a good voice to show that their clients also are receiving the same benefits.
Just one question. You said I'm part of an IRB. What's that?
It's a international review board. So okay. It's a peer group. So what you have to do is you have people in the industry that do the same thing, and they go into clinics and basically oversee what they're doing and make sure that they're working by a certain standard and a certain guideline. And then if they are, then they get accredited by that international review board.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something? The way it works in Israel is called the Institutional Review Board. So as far as I know, there is no central or international agency, but for every...
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. Yeah, you have the right word.
For every experiment, you have to undergo, or for every grant application, for example, for the NIH, you have to go through the Institutional Review Board to have its approval. And I'm from a religious university. Sometimes it's funny, it is to have a rabbinical approval, and sometimes it's more far-reaching than secular IRBs, but that's the way.
Yeah, it's institutional. I'm thinking of the ILA. I'm not thinking the IRB. Yeah, they can be very interesting, and actually they can be, IRBs can be a big pain in the butt. They can be rather like the mafia. You pay us off and we'll certify you, and you have to be very careful who you're dealing with.
By the way, what about European Union? Are there any problems in European Union with the stem cell regulation? Who investigated the matter?
Well, what I looked up, and it's in the email, is that I saw that this is what I did. I only looked up human embryonic. I am not a proponent of human embryonic stem cell use. I'm fine with it, but I like the idea of the autologous stem cell use. I haven't seen a lot of great outcome from human embryonic yet. The somatic stem cell nuclear transfer is probably the closest thing we're getting to having a positive outcome from it. But what I did is, because that is the most non-permissible form of stem cell use, I did look up the legal aspects, and so it says the law varies significantly by country. It appears to be legal in Sweden, Finland, Belgium, Greece, Britain, Denmark, Netherlands, Japan, India, Iran, Israel, South Korea, China, and Australia. And then you can see it appears to be illegal at this point in Germany, Austria, Ireland, Italy, and Portugal. And you can go on. The United States is divided. You can actually, a lot of people think that it's illegal to use embryonic stem cells in the U.S., but actually what it is you just cannot get NIH funding. If you are privately funded, you can use them in the United States. And that's a big misnomer that most people don't understand. And then it shows permitted, so that there's a back and forth in New Zealand, Africa, South America, except Brazil, it says, which are restricted.
Well, sorry for interrupting.
No, please interrupt.
Okay, I remember that we had hangout with, if I'm not mistaken, Stem Cells Alliance or something like that. So there is already an organization in United States that tries to do something with stupid stem cells regulation. Maybe we can decide and position and then simply ally with them, because they are working on this issue much longer than we.
I think that that's always a good idea. I think it's always a good idea to make sure that the work is being done out on an arm. If you're not the specialist, find the specialist in the matter, but we will have to make sure, that we agree with what they're saying. We probably do. There are a lot of people in the U.S. and advocacy sites who are trying to educate the public and align themselves with this. This is very, very basic regenerative medicine. This is very just entry-level stuff. It seemed like really big stuff at first, but stem cells is very entry-level, and I think that we should align ourselves with supporting the use of stem cells. Now, what Didier said when he said genetically modifying the embryonic stem cell, I certainly work with a lot of geneticists, and that is one thing that we're looking at, is gene therapy through changing the stem cells and then re-injecting the stem cells. But gene therapy is such a bigger issue right now than stem cells. I suggest walking in on the entry and not mixing genetics with it initially.
What about cell reprogramming? I mean, it's possible to get a stem cell from any other cell of the organism. Of course, the quality of such cell will be lower because of some epigenetic changes. I wonder, is it treated in the same way as normal stem cell, or it's possible to avoid regulatory problems if the researcher works with reprogrammed cell?
So those are called induced pluripotent stem cells, and actually I think that it's on the same range as the autologous stem cells, autologous you might want to say. It's like those cells are manipulated, so it's the FDA regulating that manipulation of the cells is what is causing all the problem, is how to regulate the use of stem cells. So when you're talking about induced pluripotent stem cells, you're going through, you're going through a whole nother level of regulation or treatment to those cells. Mallory, is that you?
Yes, that's me. I'm here.
Great. Can you talk about the legalities of stem cell culture?
Yeah, so basically what is going on with stem cell culture is that there is a ban in the FDA in the United States on cell culture expansion, which means that you can't make a therapeutic treatment. And I'm actually writing a white paper on this right now to kind of more fully flesh this out and to like be able to cite a regulation. But essentially, you can't make a therapeutic treatment if you're using, if you're expanding a cell culture and then taking that expanded culture and reinserting it into a person's body. So essentially, you can't, like, an athlete can't take a little bit of their stem cells from their body, from their fat, or from their bone marrow, or whatever, and have a laboratory divide and multiply those cells, and then, you know, a month later come back with, like, you know, where he gave a sample this big, the sample's like a liter or 2 liters at that point. You can't do that. That's not legal to do in the United States. So I don't really know exactly how this applies in other countries.
Что там начинает? Я что-то вообще не пойму, что не происходит. What was this? It was in Russian?
Yes. Hello. Are we early? I thought we still had an hour.
No.
Somebody seems to be playing.
No, I was told that this started at. I was told that this started at 10 o'clock my time, and it's 10:23 my time.
Okay.
Basically, there is somebody is running the YouTube recording of the same talk. So please mute the person who is doing this.
I thought it was KGB talking. You know what's going on over there.
No, they just listen. They don't talk.
It was my voice. I didn't recognize it.
Okay, so Mallory, I have a question for you. There's a lot of companies that I've dealt with now who are looking at minimally manipulated cells. So they're looking at like a closed system where they might be doing the liposuction on one end, and then there's a minimal filtering, and then the cells go back in. Would that be something that could be used with the FDA's? Would the FDA approve something like that?
Yeah. So basically, you take like cells from a liposuction procedure and you spin out the factors, the stem cell factors. You can reinsert those into the body as long as you don't put any other like stromal vascular fraction (SVF) factors in. If you don't add anything to it to enhance its ability to reach the body and to become bioavailable, then yeah, you're in the money. But if you do anything to those cells that, like, as adding something that could be seen as a medicine or an additive or anything, it's not allowed.
So that must be why a lot of cosmetic surgeons are still getting away with it, although just a few months ago I was at a cosmetic surgeon's conference just by chance. A friend was there, they invited me for the day, and they said that they were actually being shut down, that they were not able to do the same procedures, and so I was really surprised about that. It seems like the law is getting tighter and tighter on
the FDA has made certain moves to make sure that everybody in the United States understands that they have the right to regulate, and so in order to prove their point, they're going to probably start, waving their battle axe around a little harder and a little bit more frequently, just to let people know that they mean business. But of course, the FDA is the agents of Big Pharma, so they're going to do that because Big Pharma does not want these types of technologies to flourish.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet, anyway.
I also know that there are issues that if you don't add some of the elixirs that sort of help energize the stem cells, that you can end up with your body doing reabsorption in areas where you've been treated, and
basically making you fat again. Is that what you're saying?
well, like if they put them somewhere, let's say they put them, let's say, in your breast from your waist. People were having problems with reabsorption, but then there was a certain point where minimal manipulation was actually helping to have some of the mesenchymal cells in there actually helped revasculate, that some of the overprocessed cells were also reabsorbed. So it's a very interesting art to using stem cells. And even though that sounds cosmetic, which was what I was referring to, when you're dealing with disease, you need a similar type of adhesion of the cells to certain areas so that they will regrow muscle tissue or whatever it is that you need there. Let's see.
Liz, do you mind if I just point out a couple of things?
No, I'd be happy, please.
Okay. So Mallory, you asked. You were talking about. Liz and Mallory, both you were talking about what the FDA is doing in the United States, and it's very similar here in Britain. So my lab is closely related to the lab in Edinburgh, Mark Turner's lab. I don't know if you've heard about Mark Turner. I'll post this story. It's a very, very short story, so it won't be TLDR. So Mark Turner's lab out in Edinburgh have created stem cells. Created blood. Adult blood. So you may have read the Nature publications over the last 4 years, but it's patient ready, and it's going to, if it hasn't already gone into patients up in Scotland, it's going to go in sometime this year. So these hangouts that we were planning on doing, we can bring Mark in. So I know I'm very close with Mark and my supervisor, and he went to school together. But the point is, it's one step beyond stem cells, because he's doing it with, or their lab is doing it with iPS cells, induced pluripotent stem cells. So that's going to concern FDA and EMA, European Medical Agency, and the British equivalent of FDA a lot more. But they are being quite generous. Mark has told me about all the regulatory hurdles that they have, and they are in a unique position to exploit Scotland's initiative. So they got money from the Scottish government, and then the British Medical Agency it's not called the British Medical Agency, it's called something else, but they're hard pressed to step on Scottish donors at the Scottish government's toes, because it's not an independent government, but it's more than a state would be in the United States. So they're in a unique situation, and they're very close to bringing this UK wide, and if they do, it would be fantastic, because this is one step far beyond stem cells, because embryonic stem cells are fantastic and they're considered the gold standard. iPS would be amazing, because it would bring in a whole new kind of regenerative medicine that would be available to adults like the rest of us. Yeah, keep an eye on this one. But currently, everything that you have said, Liz.
Is this like a startup, or is this like, I mean, what in terms of business, what's he doing right now?
You're talking about the UK, and you're talking about even worse, you're talking about Scotland. I can bring Mark over on one of these hangouts, and we can talk to him about it. But they are doing a small spin-off, but mainly it's University of Edinburgh. So it's the Dolly the Sheep crew. It's not the same group, but it's pretty much that lab that popped out Dolly the Sheep. I think everybody thinks it's Texas A&M, but it's actually Edinburgh.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
sorry. May I ask, are they going to put it on market soon?
Yes. That's what I was saying, is that it's patient ready. It's actually beta tested in I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I think it's out there already. They have beta tested it in humans, but it should be available later this year in the UK at least. And I know that Karolinska Institute out in Sweden is looking at this very closely. So Mark is collaborating with that. But of course, like I said, I think you guys can hear it from the horse's mouth. I can bring Mark over at least in Google Hangout sometime. He's as you can imagine, because this is about to come to market, he's incredibly busy. But yeah, so in summary, all the points that you were making about FDA and the stem cell regulation, autologous stem cell regulation that you have in the US, it's very similar to what we have here in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, well, they're all remarkably quite similar at this point. I think maybe there might be an exception with Australia, but in the West, it's all quite uniform. It's not. I don't think it's intentionally meant to be uniform, but it just so happens that it is. One shocker is that the German system is quite restrictive, and I was pretty surprised to hear about this back in 2012, but that is the case. So Germany and France are actually being kind of sticklers about this whole thing, which I thought was sad.
So definitely, if you ask me, the autologous stem cells is the future of stem cells. I only just recently has embryonic stem cells reached back in, and I also know people who are doing things with induced pluripotent stem cells. That means using your own cells, reprogramming them. And one group that I ran into, which is quite fantastic, I ran into them in Florida. They are reprogramming skin cells into beta and islet cells, which would in turn potentially cure diabetes type 1. And what we're talking about here is actually blood banking on the other hand. So can you imagine if people didn't have to donate blood and we could have pure forms of blood through reprogrammed cells? I can say that one of the problems, my God, Mallory, it's like going outside. How lucky. It's so cold here. So I can say that one of the issues that the FDA has that we haven't covered is just this. It's using cells from another place in the body or stem cells from another place in the body and reassigning them to yet another place in your body. So let me make it clear. So there's stem cells from your fat. There's mesenchymal stem cells. There's how do you say that?
Hematopoietic stem cells.
Yeah, stem cells from your blood. And what the FDA has said that, we don't really want you crossing the boundary of where those stem cells came from and where they belong in your body. And this has been a huge debate because an iPS stem cell could be any cell that's reprogrammed and then programmed to even be used as a neural cell in your brain. They don't like that. They don't like the idea of crossing uses of your cells.
Yeah, so my PhD work has been with iPS cells. So I took, as in Mark Turner's lab, and that's why we are close, I took punch biopsies, 4mm skin samples from older patients and younger patients, and you pretty much don't have to do anything. If you leave them on the plate, they start to differentiate. And if you bring them closer to other things, a small percentage of them will differentiate into things. You don't even have to induce Yamanaka factors anymore. You can just bathe them in a certain media, and they will. The neuron transition is actually rapidly easy. Other things are difficult, and most of the time, if you look at iPS cells, induced pluripotent stem cells, it's actually fibroblasts from the skin that's used. So theoretically, the pipeline would be a 4mm punch biopsy from pretty much anybody in the world could do this. All you need is tiny hole in your skin, and you have all the blood supply of the world. That's theoretical. That's not what happens in practice. But yeah, it's an unending source. I mean, the reason why our community is so excited about iPS is because you have an unlimited supply. You don't have to tap the bone marrow anymore. You can just, and at Cambridge, at the other lab in Cambridge here, what they have been able to do is that you don't even need to drill a hole anymore. You can just you can laser pull out your hair follicle, and underneath the hair follicle there's that bulb sheet. And in that bulb is enough keratinocytes and fibroblasts that you can differentiate into neurons, into other cells. Mainly neurons nowadays, right now, except for Mark's lab where he can differentiate them into young blood cells. But yeah, it's fantastic. Sorry.
Isn't this wonderful? No, I love it. I want you to just go on and on. I mean, I think that everyone needs to. We've got to have our podcast, obviously. everyone needs to know this. They need to know, you know, how I mean, we're sitting on top of regenerative medicine, and it's being denied. And
well, yeah, precisely. I mean, this is like, you know, for me, you know, in the little world that I live in, my mental construct, this is just like the ground floor of what we're talking about here, you know, with your lab in Edinburgh. You know, we haven't even started to cover, like, you know, the issues relating to genetic engineering, which of course is the second, kind of the sister to stem cells.
Right,
So.
and I would like to mention that now because in Stanford and Harvard clinical trials, which have had smashing success with many sick patients along many gamuts of disease, we do have to remember that when we use autologous stem cells, we are reimplanting ourselves with the same DNA and the same problems that we originally had. So there are people who went into remission from disease and then 3 and 4 or 5 years later started to go back into the disease state because we're dealing with the same genetics. So of course what we hope is to be able to find the genes and make the repairs on our own DNA or enhance our own DNA, and actually that's what will help us to achieve our long-term goal of longevity. But certainly even 3-4 years of remission for someone who, let's say, potentially has, although I'm not sure of the success in that right now, ALS or muscular dystrophy or something like that, is worth doing. So certainly genetics is the next step, and that also can play hand in hand with stem cell use, because stem cells, like Didier was pointing out, are a fantastic route to spike gene therapies and reinsert them into the body.
I have actually made a paragraph called action plan. I mean, maybe we can decide our further actions. I think that maybe first we have to formulate our position, what is good, what is bad. Then we can look, I think that the most problematic is actually to find places where regulation really makes sense, because in most of the cases laws are so restrictive, but in some cases there is a reason behind this. Then I think maybe we can talk to allies, and we can also formulate some generic position. I mean, we can propose some generic regulation, in what way stem cells should be regulated, and this generic proposal can be adopted to different countries, taking into consideration the differences between different systems. At least it's a way how I see it may happen. Maybe you have a different view.
No, I think that that's a fantastic way to keep on board with how with what the ILA can do. We certainly have spent a lot of time on education and just coming up to speed with what's going on with stem cells. Thank you, Anton, for seeing what we can actually do with that. I think that it's just important that everyone has an education in it first, so they actually even know what they're talking about. So we're kind of laying the groundwork, and then certainly who we deal with and how we help is even more important.
Yes, and Mallory, do you think you could share your draft white paper on this, or do you feel like doing this?
I can see what about it. I've signed an NDA because this is on a consultancy project, but I mean, pretty much the things that I talk about that I'm contributing, like, for the project, are things that you guys all know about, you know. So in my thesis, you know, basically in my thesis, whenever I was in law school, I wrote about cultured meat products, and I was talking about genetic engineering and most of that because I had to find an analog to talk about cultured meat products, which is GMO foods. And so basically there's not a whole lot of regulation relating to genetically modified foods, other than like the generally recognized as safe standard by the FDA. But basically, the thing that's standing in the way of genetically modified animals, like fish, for example, is political pressure. So that's like the fundamental obstacle in the way when you're talking about genetic engineering of human beings. I'm sure of it. That's it's gonna easily translate. People are gonna have a fit. But you know, on the other side, you've already got, like, you do have regulations in place. You have rules in place with stem cells, such as, you know, the ban on anything more than minimal manipulation. And so that, I mean, it's to me, whenever I explain this, I think it's really simple to understand. You just have to split regenerative medicine or longevity medicine into two prongs: stem cell medicine and genetic engineering medicine. With genetic engineering, the big problem is political pressure. With stem cell issues, you've got stuff in place such as, like I just said, the bans on more than minimal manipulation. You've got the FDA saying that stem cells are a drug, and things like that. I mean, once you understand that issue, you understand basically what my entire career is about. It's like you could almost do my job.
And what is FDA saying? Are they going to develop regulation? What are their concerns?
What is the FDA saying? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
I mean, the FDA really hasn't said much about genetic engineering. They really have just left it where it is right now. What I just told you is exactly where the FDA is with regenerative medicine modalities, period.
Right. So what she's saying is the FDA is trying to define stem cells as a drug. So any manipulation to your cells or reuse of cells from one place to another place in your body, which actually covers most of the use of stem cells, is a drug. And so when they couldn't when they started looking at cell culture as a proof of it as being a drug, because those cells were treated with a substance, they even crossed the lines and said, if you use those stem cells from one place in your body to another place in your body, that also defines needing regulation. So I think that's what Mallory's saying.
Yeah, and see, the FDA operates on something called a precautionary principle, which simply means that it's kind of hard for me to explain. I haven't explained this a whole lot to people, but they're basically like, well, unless you can prove to me that this is safe, you know, then I'm not going to allow it. And so the burden is all on the person, the applicant for the drug approval. And so the FDA basically, it's not that the burden doesn't shift the other way, where the FDA has to prove that there's the burden never shifts to the FDA, in other words, to prove that their position is valid or holds water. So essentially, that's what the precautionary principle is. And I wanted to say one more thing about this, and this is kind of new for me, So basically, the Prescription Drug User Fee Act is something that's been in effect since the 1990s, and so the most recent iteration of the PDUFA Act is part of something called FDASIA. And so basically, like, there's this patient-centric effort being undertaken by the FDA, which I know very little about, but I was on a conference call a few months ago about it, and essentially, I'm wondering if maybe there's new opportunities for patient advocate groups to apply pressure to the FDA to get these types of drugs that might be relating to stem cells approved. But again, you know, I think that maybe what FDASIA is really, what the patient advocate groups, such as like cystic fibrosis groups or whatever, or Parkinson's groups, maybe what they can actually benefit from are drugs that are chemical drugs, that are new types of chemical drugs, and not cell-based drugs or genetic engineering-based drugs. But it's something that we could do more research on, and it's something that the ILA definitely needs to know about.
Yeah, and I think that the FDA the ILA we're not the FDA. The ILA has to be very clear.
If we were the FDA, that would be heaven on earth.
Yeah, it would be great to be FDA.
I think that what we have to be clear on is what our angle is, and probably the number one angle is this: the FDA is there to protect people. So what they've done is they've gotten themselves so buried in paperwork that hardly anything new can come through, right? And and they did do a good job. There were instances, just 80 years ago or 50 years ago where people putting antifreeze into drugs and killing people over and over again for people who were looking for cures. They killed children. They killed African Americans in syphilis studies, not allowing them to have access to medicine. These people were unwittingly killed because they were taking placebos. So the FDA came in to protect people. The problem is that people are more educated, and we hope continue to educate themselves, especially on regenerative medicine. And when the FDA doesn't actually approve a procedure that holds real cures to disease, oh wow, something is really loud. When the FDA doesn't do that, this is the problem. Insurance companies will not cover these procedures, and people start to leave the country spending all of their savings in China or somewhere else that might be spent on work that actually they're just going to lose their money, and it's not going to be real cures. So we need to can whoever is making all that noise? Wow.
It sounds like somebody's at a restaurant.
Sounds like someone's out on the street or something. Anyway, that's okay. The most important thing is to get the FDA to approve these procedures so that insurance will cover these for people who really cannot afford to pay $15,000 and $20,000 per treatment outside of the country and spend their savings on work that may not be good. Right,
so could I just quickly add a couple of things? So the institute, so I posted a link up there regarding exactly what you're talking about, Liz, which is the International Society for Stem Cell Researchers Guide for Patients Seeking Stem Cell Treatment Abroad. I posted a link. It's right up there near the top.
Oh, I can't get it unless it's on email. Oh, I might be able to on another device. I'm on an iPad, so I.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I can send that to you. Okay. Mallory, I realize now where I have I know you from. My partner Hannah and I were the first people in the UK, and we were working with the European team that did the work on lab-grown meat. So if you look up my name or Hannah's name, you will see the first paper that was published on lab-grown meat. What I was going to say is that you know that the lab-grown meat cookout happened last year here.
Yeah, on August 5th. Yeah, I'm friends with Isha Datar.
Yes. So Isha Datar. So that didn't happen in the U.S. for particular reasons, and we can discuss the reasons off air. And so the problems that you're talking about with the FDA, for once, Europe is actually a little bit ahead, or a little bit relaxed compared to certain agencies in the U.S. So the team, so I'm only fringely associated with this. So they're writing a Horizon 2020 grant, which is a European Union grant for the future of food to do lab-grown meat. And remember, I know for the rest of you guys, it might seem like I'm talking about something that is not related, but it is related. It is lab-grown meat.
It's all related. It's all related.
So if we can get this through, and we're getting this through the European Commission and the European Union, the Horizon 2020 grant, if it goes through, again, I will discuss more detail about this grant off air. If we can get this through, then it's the European Union funding this work. And already Hannah works for the European Commission, and the European Commission is letting her work on lab-grown meat while she's working for the European Commission. She's based out in Italy. So we still are writing papers. We're still doing this work out of the European Commission, and the European Commission pays her salary. So that's actually a really brilliant step for bringing these kind of regulations to market. And
I'm so glad that you came on board because, I haven't really had a chance to really talk about the convergence between like stem cell derived animal meat, animal tissue products and medicine products. But it's basically like the argument is if it's good enough to put in your mouth to eat, then why isn't it good enough to put in your body to treat?
I think this is fantastic, and so you guys know Mallory actually did a podcast with me on this, and me being a vegetarian, I cannot wait until there is lab-grown meat, because I will actually eat meat again.
So if I'm allowed to again divert this a little bit, so when Hannah went on BBC Radio to talk about this, the biggest attack that she was attacked on the radio by was the British Vegetarian Society. So it's kind of bonkers. The regulatory agencies are okay in Europe about this, but the British Vegetarian Association, it's been quite interesting. But overall, it's looking quite good. And again, I can talk in more detail off air because the documents and stuff are still in process for reviewing and stuff. So I shouldn't talk about that in detail. But yeah, no, I'm hoping, and the reason why I work on this, my 20% of my time is spent on this stuff, is because it's the same thing. If we can get these things done, exactly what you said. I like your statement, Mallory. That was a pretty good line. I need to write that down somewhere.
I would like to get a transcript of that.
If it's good enough for you to put in your mouth to eat, then why isn't it good enough to put in your body to treat?
There you go.
Yeah. I would love to get a transcript of that. I would like to know why a vegetarian association would have any problem with lab-grown meat. There's like no death of animals incurred.
No, they're just progress haters. That's all of it. They just hate all technology altogether.
I'm a vegetarian. I don't get it. I've never been like that. I'm always looking for solutions, but I guess that's the problem, and that's something that we all have to remember as we push forward. We are people looking for solutions. We are a rare breed of people. A lot of people are just complaining. They spend their life complaining. Let's not do that. Let's find the solutions.
Right. There are some vegetarian proponents, people against cruelty on animals in HEAL, so maybe they would support it.
I mean, I'm also vegetarian. It's like I sometimes I can't believe that there's hardly I can't believe that not everybody in this whole world and community that we're in is vegetarian. I just make assumptions oftentimes that many people are.
Right. Yeah, because longevity is probably not just for humans or it's right. I get it.
Regarding this issue, I know that PETA organization, they established a prize for those who will make artificial meat satisfying some criteria. So not all animal defenders and vegetarians are against. Some are supporting. Maybe they may be somehow interested in.
PETA has given us money directly. PETA has given Mark Post's lab money directly. So PETA is supporting.
I think that that's fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that PETA is doing something positive. PETA was the reason for 15 years I couldn't tell anyone I was a vegetarian. PETA has done more to destroy the image of vegetarian people than any other organization in the world, and that is a good reminder. You don't persuade people by starting an argument, and that's what PETA came out and did many years ago. They lambasted, they attacked, they spilled blood, they passed out pins that looked like syringes in schools. It's good to hear that they're doing something positive. We don't want to become
They didn't have the technology to do this back then, so they had to do something to get people's attention.
Yeah, you know what?
We're talking about the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, but there were better ways to do it. They destroyed a culture of vegetarians. I can probably name 5 people that couldn't admit they were vegetarian for 15 years because of PETA, because everyone assumed that that you were gonna, I don't know, put a bomb in their house if they ate meat.
That's the most absurd thing for those people to say that, Liz, though, because I mean, quite honestly, like, that just shows weakness in their personality and their character if they can't like stand up for what they believe in, independent of what somebody else is doing.
You know, PETA was really big. PETA
Yeah, but
laid
been around
a
since
great
I've been a
impression.
vegetarian.
Yeah, PETA.
Anyway,
PETA
it's off topic. It's off topic. It's
hopefully, anyway, now PETA is doing something good. It's nice to hear that they're putting money behind good research for good products that I can agree with.
Yeah, I would like to talk about Russia's experience of cell regulation, cell product regulation. Do you mind?
Wonderful.
Yes. So we have a minister, maybe 2 years now already, and she's molecular biologist herself, Veronika Skvortsova. On the one hand, it's very good because she is trying to promote biomedical science. On the other hand, I think with her there is a tendency to over-regulating it because she has a community of professionals and they think that they are best people to know, to regulate, to give licenses, and so on. So they developed a bill which was called on biomedical technologies, and that included ban of embryonic stem cell research. It also included ban on human cloning. So I think there is influence of religious community. So this particular bill met a lot of protests from first professional community, because we have one quite strong company, at least, Human Stem Cell Institute. They even got on IPO, and they do all these technologies which Liz has been describing. They develop new products and so on. So they were protesting against this bill, and also Russian transhumanist movement also did quite a lot to slow down this bill. It was sending letters to all the governmental agencies, and Ministry of Economy was particularly important because it was giving signs that this bill is going to kill important industry. And there were other agencies. So for at least more than a year, this bill was stopped. But then they produced a new version of it. Now it's called the Bill on Regulating Biomedical Products, which means that it does not regulate research. So if in the first version it was impossible even research embryonic stem cells, now the bill does not allow only doing embryonic stem cells. I know that there is not much promising discoveries yet on embryonic stem cells, but we studied quite a lot the international regulations. Most countries allow embryonic stem cell products. There are a few countries which do not, for example, Italy, due to religious factor. So we did not want to worsen the investment climate in Russia and in general this climate. Other than a ban of embryonic stem cell, this bill contains some strange licensing process, that there should be some governmental institution created which will license these products. And it still contains human cloning ban. And in general, it also includes the need to have a bioethical committee, which would include representatives of religion and media. And we don't, of course, like any of them because they're not professionals. And we argue that this violates human right to health and life. So basically now this bill is in the governmental plan of legislation activities, so it kind of must be adopted. but Human Stem Cell Institute spoke to the ministry, and they told that they need first to develop some treatment, some protocols. It was developed, but nobody is happy about it. So basically, this bill is still pending, and we're going to have a meeting with this organization to discuss what are their concerns and what is their vision. So this is it. And I believe all these restrictions were on religious basis. But also there was nothing to ban this minimally modified stem cells. No, these problems were not there at all.
Wonderful.
Oh, by the way, I have an idea. I see that in most of the countries there is at least one group doing advocacy for stem cell research. Maybe, of course, if it hasn't been done yet by anybody, maybe we can make kind of stem cells research manifesto, as well as generic stem cells regulation documents, and make a hangout with representatives of all those organizations and make them sign this manifesto, as well as elaborate with them on some generic stem cell, I would say reference stem cell regulation document. So in such way, we will be able to show that there is agreement between organizations all over the world about some ways in which stem cells should be regulated and treated.
Is there something like that already done? We should perhaps first research the web.
Yeah, I mean that I propose to do it if it hasn't been done yet. If it has been done already, we can simply join this proposal and sign this manifesto or whatever they have. Of course, if it is done in a right way and as the International Longevity Alliance.
Yeah, I would really like to see us supporting things that have been started, because I assume that a lot of these things that we can get on board with have been cited, and I still would clamor for, I would really like our group to do what everyone is asking to be done in both the research, academic, and medical side of regenerative medicine. Is I would spend this minute just begging that we become the voice of defining aging as a disease.
Yes.
That is going to be our biggest end. That is going to be why we're going to get sponsorships from companies like Calico and various work that other groups are doing. That is what is going to align us. That's where we should be putting our legal efforts. Stem Cell already has a slew of lawyers that are working on cases between medical doctors who are doing stem cell work outside of the U.S. that hold licenses inside the U.S. We can align with the thinking of those people, but we should be doing the most important thing, which is using our legal efforts to define aging as a disease. Everyone is asking me for that. I spent a few days with Bill Andrews at Sierra Sciences this last week, and he was saying the same thing. That would be the one greatest thing, because then the NIH can allocate money towards their research, and I mean, we become a real voice.
Can I chime in for a second here?
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying is definitely true, and like this kind of comes into, like, at least in the United States and with other countries that have a clearly stated governmental interest to preserve life. You know, let me give you an overlook. Like, whenever the government can always argue whenever, like, somebody's shot, or like if somebody has let's imagine that somebody has their house broken into by the police because the police think that somebody's dying in the house. The police say that there is. If that person whose the house that was goes and, like, sues the government for causing the damage to the house, basically what the government could say is that we have the interest to preserve life. And so basically this pervades the entire government, U.S. government, state government, everything. And so what I'm seeing from all of this is that there's a huge dichotomy there's a disconnect, a cognitive disconnect between the United States government banning anything past minimal manipulation, allowing political pressure to ruin the fate of anything that relates to genetic engineering. And it's clearly stated, one of its clearly stated purposes, which is to preserve human life. When we talk about aging, we're talking about preserving human life. That's the only thing we're talking about when we're talking about ending aging. We're talking about giving people a chance to live another day, to make more choices with their lives, to have their lives as opposed to not having it. And so I think that for that reason, that is one of the fundamental arguments that I would like to make, you know, and with not only the United States government, but I'm sure with other governments too. On top of that, we, you know, more than the United States, you know, has kind of, you know, like we have the First Amendment here, which provides for decisional and bodily autonomy when we make choices with what to do with our bodies. And so essentially, when you combine what I just said previously with decisional privacy, which is what kind of treatments you would like to have, I think that we have a really potent argument to make. And what I see the ILA doing, this group of amazing people that I get together with once every other week to talk and have these amazing conversations with, is I see the faces of the people who are going to be the policy drivers, who have the potential to be the policy drivers for these organizations like Human Longevity, like Calico. We have the ability to take this more than way past just having a conversation every 2 weeks, taking time out of our busy schedules and really making this our career, that this is where we make history and this is what we're known for. And so my involvement in the ILA, as well as everyone else's here, is what I'm trying to figure out ways that we can get noticed so that we can become more than just this kind of ragtag group of people, and we can put together a truly cohesive professional organization, a consortium of people, to either be like serving a consultative capacity on an international scale, or kind of be taken in by, you know, one of these outfits, or work, you know, kind of under contract for these outfits to make these arguments. I see this as being so much bigger than what we're doing now. We have so much more potential, and other people aren't really thinking about these kinds of things in the way that we are. Very few people on this earth are. And so in order for regenerative medicine, whether it be genetic engineering or for stem cells to even make it off the ground, these arguments are going to have to be made, and they're going to, whether we're making them in court or not, people have to be made to understand the rights that they have and the rights that they have to make those arguments, and for those arguments to be made to the decision makers at the government agencies such as the FDA and the British regulating agency and the German regulating agency and the EU regulating agency and the Chinese agency and the Japanese agency and every other. So that's just kind of my 2 cents. I wanted to say that because it's been really something on my mind for a really long time, and it's a big idea, and it's really hard to say it in like 2 or 3 sentences.
I think that was much appreciated, and I think that that is one of the biggest things why I think defining aging as a disease actually covers all of these grounds. That's what Aubrey wants. That's what everyone you know in regenerative medicine wants. They need that because without the money, they cannot fund the research, and that's what everyone is having such a hard time doing. So if we can redefine aging as a disease, if that was our job, they would actually allocate money to us. Another thing I want to say that I'm really happy about today is that we spent time on education, and I suggest that everyone looks through that email I sent. We cannot, you know, we get on here and we talk about right away, like, you know, how do we legally take over and do something, but we need one charge to do it, and we we need a lot of education on all of regenerative medicine. And actually making our meetings at least halfway about making sure that we're all educated on the issues, I'm certainly not. And there's a lot of issues that I think that everyone in here is a specialist on, and they could actually, you know, we could meet every couple weeks and they could do a teaching session, and we could learn about something, because not everyone is up to par. Not everyone knew anything about stem cells, and this is our business. So we need to know everything about regenerative medicine, and whoever can do the teaching should be teaching on those. But again, I really think that we should pick one point and legally run on that one point, but understand how it affects all these other things, like stem cells and finances being allocated to these companies that are going to be doing the work, and genetics, and
well, I mean, if the government has an interest in pursuing life, you know, this is what I'm preserving life, excuse me. You know, these are the kinds of arguments that I don't necessarily have to take this to court. You know, I just think that having a conversation with these decision makers and clearly explaining the cognitive dissonance here, and saying that we have a real opportunity to, you know, to do all those things that I just mentioned previously.
And Anton is actually exceedingly right. This is why we should align with groups who are doing these things but not do them ourselves. We do not need to be the experts in stem cells. We need some experts within the group on stem cells so that we know how our work affects stem cells and the financing of and regenerative medicine coming to the mainstream, so that people's insurance companies will cover it, so that they can get it. And Mallory's right too, because I did research on what she said about the First Amendment, and there are other amendments also, and it's well written. Various people have written in how these are United States amendments, by the way, that these do affect your right to regenerative medicine. Absolutely, she's not the only person saying that, but she's the one person that we have that is saying that, that knows how to put some weight behind that. And I was pretty impressed when I saw various documents based on similar ideals of the amendments, and how we can push to get these, because certainly we do have a right to go outside the country to get stem cell work in the case of stem cells. Or genetic work, or anything we want if we sign our rights away, but we cannot get it covered by insurance, and most people cannot afford that. We also need to look at the economy of living longer. Certainly the ILA could have many of these questions answered. We started a document on it so that people could come to the ILA and see the various reasons why people living younger longer is advantageous to not only happiness, but financial success, and doing away with Social Security. But I really think that we have to adhere to one area and one thing that we could achieve, and the greatest thing that we could achieve, and run with that, and spend time on educating all the other areas so that we understand how what we're doing affects that. But we certainly don't need to be writing the handbook on stem cell use and regulating it. Somebody else is doing that. Let's start aligning. Let's start creating those networks so that we're not wasting time.
Liz?
Oh, sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead, Anton. You go ahead.
Okay, I'm just writing down to-dos as well as some notes. So as I understand, we have to Google if there are any international manifestos or something like that on stem cells research. If there are such, we can simply look at them. If they are done well, we can officially declare that we as ILA sign these manifestos and even promote them. If there are no international manifestos on stem cells research, no kind of generic regulation proposals, actually we can simply make a draft. Maybe it will be very simple, but it's a nice way to invite various stem cells advocacy groups all over the world to work with them together and to make such document. In such case, they will probably do much more than us. I mean, we can start, but most of the stuff they can propose because they are in this topic for a long time. But it's a nice way of getting connections.
It's like
promoting that as integrated force.
People who are scientists, who are biological scientists, these regulations would affect their day-to-day work, to come on board and to commit to. If we're going to involve ourselves in that, we need more people. It can't be just us, because this body of people that we have that meets here, we're focused. Our strength is in our policy making ability, our policy reasoning ability, and so that's what I mean to say. And
right,
so,
and I would say with the amount of people that we have, we would be lucky to push one agenda. So if there's another group that has some amount of document, like Anton's saying, then we just ask them to make an international document. We say, you know, we're putting this on you to make an international document, and we will push that document, and it will be part of our agenda. But as far as legal aspects, we'll be lucky to push one thing in the next 2 years, and we better choose what that is. And I would not choose a subset of regenerative medicine. I would not choose stem cells or genetics or anything else. I would choose the main hub that is the reason why all of the people doing those jobs would want to adhere with us. You know, why we become the egg and they become the sperm, and they're all trying to get in. You know, we want to be
always thinking about sex.
yeah. Okay, but we want to be that.
Yes. Is there anyone willing to Google out these international groups and their positions, if some groups have positions? Stem cell advocacy groups.
Absolutely. Why don't we do this? Why don't we make a thing? Let's make an email and let's allocate certain people to doing certain things, so we actually get something done. And let's decide what the ILA, what is our agenda, what we're going to push, so we know exactly from that the multi-prongs what we're doing inside, and we know why these people want to come together with us. We know why they want to do their work and adhere themselves to us, and we know why companies who are you know, pushing the agenda of longevity medicine and want to have groups that are actually mobilizing, you know, what are we good at, and what are we going to do legally, because so far we're not doing really anything legally, even though we're having all these legal meetings. We have people here in law, and we have people who could be mobilizing, and we want to mobilize them.
Well, actually, isn't Daria and Edward, aren't you guys, I mean, doing things, I mean, Daria, aren't you doing legal action, you and Maria, if I remember correctly? And Edward, I know, I don't know if Didi is still on, and I see Edward on, but he hasn't spoken anything, so that I assume he's not on. So they are petitioning to the European Union, Edward and Didier, and the group based in Brussels, in HEALS. The one other thing that I wanted to point out, and Daria, you should please talk about that, and anybody else here, Ilya, you might know better about HEALS' action in Brussels, where the European Union and the European Commission is based. It's a one-stop shop for dealing with all European states, kind of. The last thing that I want to talk about is that Larry Lessig. Everyone here or kind of sort of know who he is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, of course, the US-based people probably know about him, but that doesn't matter. What he has done is both sad and awesome. So I don't know if anybody here knows about the May 1 project. So what he has done is that he has recognized that politicians basically vote for whoever is giving them money. And the May 1 project is a crowd-funded project to get people elected to the U.S. Congress who would vote on your issues. So they are no longer funded by big oil or big pharma or whatever. You're actually buying politicians to be in the Congress who would vote because the money came from you. So So he has basically established a super PAC. The terminology doesn't mean anything outside the U.S. I understand, but that's an interesting approach. If we are going to go do crowdfunding, or like what I am planning to do, which is to start up companies, which we can discuss later, and all of the revenue could go towards. This is another way of doing legislation. I'm not saying that it'll be useful everywhere in the world, but if targeted at the right places, money can be quite useful to get regulations done properly. I'm not talking about bribing or anything. I'm just talking about Larry Lessig doing this really interesting thing, which is both sad and interesting. But things like that, it's quite an innovative approach to use crowdfunding towards getting things done.
Did he succeed?
79%. So it's been, I think, 10 days, and 79%, $797,000, almost $800,000 have been raised out of the 1 million that is needed. So almost 80% is done, and 21 days left. So I think the 1 million will be reached. Will he succeed? I don't know. Time will tell. I'm skeptical, but I think it's an interesting effort.
Can I say something about what Liz said, if I may? Liz, can I?
Oh yeah, anyone can talk.
Well, thank you. I think it is a very good point that you are making. On the other hand, it's a little bit high risk and high gain policy. Yes, we can gain a lot. We can make a name out for ourselves. On the other hand, we can also break our necks on this. What I would suggest, maybe this could be our next step in our legislative activity. But perhaps for the more immediate goal, a little less high gain, but also less high risk, it could be legislative efforts to create some kind of coordinating structure to address aging. Not to fight aging, not to eradicate aging, but to address aging by biological means as a global problem, as a serious health risk, something a little milder, and but that seems much more feasible than just going, head against the wall, declaring aging in disease, and breaking our spears over it. But some coordinating structures on every level, national, international, that's something very feasible, and this kind of activity is indeed attempted, but not many successes is at hand. But hopefully there will be, and hopefully soon. So
I think that's really awesome, and I think that the way to get to that point, to where we can make that argument to say we need to address aging, as a potentially as a disease that is conquerable, is to start educating people on the very base level. I mean, in order to explain something, you have to lay the foundations, and so the foundation for me and my purview is really the things that I talked about, previously. It's like explaining to people, here are what the government says that they do. Here is where this is what they're actually doing to these interests that are pushing to research and development in this direction in terms of aging. Don't you, as the listener, as the reader, as the audience, as the target audience, see the disconnect? Okay, lots of people don't even understand that there is a cognitive disconnect here. They don't understand. They don't put together the baseline, like First Amendment style freedom of expression laws and governmental interests, self-declared governmental interests. They don't even marry those realities with what's actually happening in terms of regulation and in terms of agency action, in terms of legislation, in terms of governmental pressure being successfully applied to quash these types of technologies. And I think that that's really where our power lies. This is something that you don't have to have a college degree to do. As long as you understand these types of things, you can become a powerful advocate and you can incite action on parts of well-funded interests, such as Google, such as all these interests here in the Silicon Valley where I'm at. you know, my problem right now, if I had the ability to make just call up and have a meeting with Google X or Google Calico, and I do know somebody now that works for Google X, and he's trying to hook me up. If I had the ability to go in there and give the spiel that I just gave 5-10 minutes ago, I think we could walk out of there with a plan of action that included funding, and would really start getting us somewhere. But unfortunately, access is the problem. You know, that's like the biggest, like that's the greatest bane of my existence right now, is that I can't get access to people. If I have access to people, I can make that winning pitch. I know personally that I can, and I know that each and every one of us can too, to the respective authorities that we are governed by. And so this is really what I think that we need to do. It doesn't, whenever I'm talking about explaining these things in this way, is so simple. It's virtually child's play. And that's the way to start getting that traction under our feet, so that we can start making progress towards, having said all of this, having explained the disconnect and the irony and the action versus the declarations of the interests of the state, will you now get out of the way? Will you now start allowing us to pursue these things, legalize these types of research and development, make these declarations that we're not actually trying to kill people and end the world and bring about doomsday? These are but in order to get to that point first, we have to make these baseline explanations as, isn't this crazy? Isn't this ridiculous? Look at what's happening. And especially, like I said, in light of all of the things that the states, many states around the world, declare as a fundamental interest of theirs.
I agree with you, Mallory, but I think that even what you're saying is over and above what Ilya wants to do. I think that what we're saying, what we want to do, is to become a voice of, we want to become the voice of moving the definition of aging, or having people look at healthy aging or youthful aging differently. I think that he's saying that he wants to sort of that it should be like not so abrasive, which I'm afraid then, of course, we're stuck with the same thing. We're stuck with getting donations from people who go. I mean, that's just an easy thing to accept, but to actually demand that we are a useful entity to the people who actually matter, the people who are doing the science, and not just a general public's acceptance of, yes, they want to age happily and healthily. I think that we do have to be a bigger. We have to stand on a bigger pedestal. We need to stand on something that we actually need a legal team for. And I don't think that we have to be abrasive while we're doing it. I just think that we have to show that we have purpose, because otherwise we're going to fall into the, yes, we support healthy aging. We don't want to just support it. We want to lead the charge of getting money to the industries who are doing this critical research. And I don't think that there's anything abrasive about that, or that would turn people off at all. We're not being a PETA, like I said. We're not starting an argument. We're starting a conversation, and I think that we should start the conversation in a way that actually makes us useful. How are we useful? Just coddling along a system. What we want to do is we want to start a conversation. Again, not an argument. And be useful in getting I'm sorry, I just got a text that confused me. Getting the information out to the world, and getting these sort of sponsorships from companies. I mean, if we can align ourselves with Google and Craig Venter and other people who would gladly see us intervening in a gentle and yet magnificent way, I think that we will be up and running in no time.
But I am talking about a gentle and magnificent way. I'm not looking to start an argument. I'm talking about exploring facts and explaining facts and unpacking factual realities, and then saying, okay, having said all these realities, don't you think that we have something of a baseline here to start educating about these other things, about about that you have in order to get to that place where that Ilya wants. Of course, we all want that. We have to do the work, and so there's a series of steps in order to get to that place where we're on that platform. And that first step, in my opinion, is to explain, not to destroy the system under which we live, because that's going to be virtually impossible. I'm talking about using the system under which we live and that we operate and that we're governed by to actually help us.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question? So what is actually the proposal?
Doing so in a brand new way that nobody has been able to do or has done before.
Right. A lot of the, let's go back to stem cells. A lot of the
actually, I wanted to put my 8 topics into the conversation because because I was waiting about 5 minutes to do this. I mean that regarding defining aging as a disease, as I understand Ilya's concern is that actually it is a bit risky, and partially I agree with that. I mean that I raised a question of aging as a disease in one of biology of aging conferences where Aubrey, Joao Margulies, and other H+ aging researcher attended. And even transhumanist aging researchers like Pedro, they were very cautious. So they didn't say that they agree that aging is a disease. They only said that actually we can treat aging as a disease, but actually aging is a root cause of a lot of diseases and so on. So if we want to promote aging as a disease, we should first talk to our allies in aging research, because if the most H+ aging researcher will not agree with us, we will get into a trouble, because people simply say that even the most radical aging researchers do not agree with you, so we don't believe you.
Okay.
Well, how could they ever disagree with what we're talking about?
So
well,
everyone,
it's a position that they actually. After I raised such questions, there was a man there who created disease ontology, and he was constantly asking various researchers if they agree that aging is a disease. And such researchers, most of them, well, maybe more than a half of them disagreed, and those who are more or less H+, like Pedro, and even Aubrey, by the way, they took very cautious position, probably because they don't think that being that radical in taking some positions is good for them. So I think that maybe we should have at least several H+ aging researchers on our side that will just confirm our words after we will publicly declare aging as a disease. Because if we will not get confirmation from famous research, we'll get into trouble. What, Mallory?
I said maybe we don't necessarily need to declare aging as a disease, but rather as an injustice that we have the power and the ability to change starting now.
Well, how about this? How about we don't declare it as a disease? Most of the people
declare. Most of the H+ research.
How about?
Sorry for interrupting.
How about we put out a paper and we ask people if they agree with that or not? Because when I sit with them, they do agree with that. They agree that aging is a disease, and all of these other things are symptoms of those diseases. And I think that I just saw Aubrey speak that publicly recently. But what we could do is we don't have to say aging is a disease. We could say aging leads to the diseases.
I think that the problem here is actually if we say that aging is a disease, and if we do advocacy in this direction, we can bring a lot of benefits for those people who want better regulation. Because if because diseases are regulated in different way as gerontodrugs. I mean that there is no actual in most of the countries there is even no term anti-aging drugs or whatever. That's why some people may support us, because nobody tells that aging is a disease, and there is clear financial gain here. And I think that even Aubrey can publicly, actually he already told that aging is kind of Uber disease, but where he was asked by that guy from Disease Ontology project, Aubrey responded kind of in a cautious way that actually we can treat aging as a disease, but actually it doesn't matter because it is all about damage and it is a cause of all most of age-related diseases and blah 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 blah. So he took a cautious position, probably because most of the surrounding, I mean, most of the people at that conference, they were more conservative.
Okay, so I think that what we do know, though, is we need to be a professional in one area. And I'd just like to, since we've been talking about stem cells, I'd like to point out that there are a lot of stem cell advocacy sites, and there are a lot of people who agree with stem cell use. And that's much like agreeing with healthy aging. And I'm telling you, these industries, they don't, there are a ton of websites, they don't get money, except for maybe occasionally. A lot of them are just there to try to get patients to go through their site and make money off of that. We definitely want to make sure that we have a purpose and that we're not just wasting our time. So when you do advocacy, we advocate healthy aging, you're not going to get a whole lot of notice because you're really not doing a whole lot of help for anyone, especially not for the research. If we take a stance, then we are helping the industry and we're getting noticed, but we do have to agree diplomatically on what that stance is. Everyone that I've talked to lately would love to define aging as a disease. Maybe they don't want to be the ones to come out to say it, but if we did, they would certainly back us up.
Well, actually, Liz, I agree with you. I often also call aging as a disease. I simply emphasize that it's a very bold step, and we need support of famous researchers.
Yes, and I think this is the way
before doing this.
Right.
I actually had a call, and most people here were on this call on aging as a disease. So please finish first, Liz.
Oh, sorry. One thing I want to tell you is it's not just in the importance of getting research dollars to these researchers. If you define aging as a disease, it opens up insurance companies to actually paying for prescriptions to all sorts of medications that are already out there that could be used as anti-aging that insurance doesn't cover right now. So it would improve the life of the elderly immediately to define aging as a disease, just through basic prescriptions and reallocation of pharmaceuticals that are not being used for aging right now, that have to be compounded or can't be prescribed or have to be directly paid for, because these people who are ailing and who are sick cannot get these medications because it's across the boundaries of what they are actually allocated for. So it would help people immediately.
One big problem about calling aging disease is it gets us immediately into huge scientific problem, not a legal problem, but a scientific problem. What is aging? What is a disease? Aging is not a single process, but a multitude of processes. So I wonder if we really want to get involved into this scientific discussion. And on the other hand, another question that I would pose is, what do we actually want to gain by calling aging a disease? More funding for research, right?
Already told you.
What?
I will tell you right now what we want to do, and I think that what you're saying is absolutely what we want to do. We want to start a conversation. We want to say why we're valid. We want to start that conversation. We want people to say the ILA is saying this. What are they saying? We don't want to start an argument. We want to start a conversation. And I will remind you that most diseases, things that are actually stated as diseases like ALS and muscular dystrophy, also don't follow one guideline. They don't even follow one genetic set, the same people that have the same disease. So absolutely, I think that we can consider aging a disease.
Well, we had this, one second, discussion before, and we have some notes from this. Perhaps, but I see it needs to be discussed again. We have new people and maybe new look. So maybe how about having this discussed again at the next legal meeting? I will send all the notes from the previous meeting and things like that.
May I propose something, if I could? It seems that the concept of aging as a disease comes up regularly, and we're always going back and forth on it. Why don't we just accept that this is one of the things that the ILA is going to do, is to consider whether or not aging can be defined as a disease. I do personally believe that getting people to accept aging as a disease is a very important step to addressing the issues of longevity. If people don't see there's anything wrong with aging and dying, why should they do anything about it? Nobody wants it, but if everybody says, well, it's just the way it is, it's the old kill the dragon that's eating the people theory. But I think that we keep going back to this, and we haven't really resolved it, but it should be something that is at least part of our inquiry, if not part of our mission.
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it. But we definitely, I think we definitely shouldn't, beat our head against the wall and call aging a disease. There are better ways to, to say the same thing, but in less risky terms that will actually gain more support for us. In Aikido, you absorb the energy of the opponent. You don't, beat head against it, because I'm telling from my own experience. I'm telling everybody. It's been 2 years, but still it's a nice story. Went to the Knesset. We said let's create a committee to fight aging as a disease, and they said everything you propose is right, all the measures you propose is right, are right, but aging is not a disease, so go away. So
yeah, well, that's it. If you address it like a disease, you don't have to say it is or it's not. That's getting people to accept something they're fundamentally inclined not to accept. But if you say, why don't we treat it like a disease? And people say, do you like the idea of getting old? Do you like the idea of decrepitude and decline? Because of course not. It's good. But if this is what's happening, why don't we address it the same way we address cancer or liver failure or whatever, and see if we can change it. You don't have to call it a disease, just treat it the same way and see if the techniques and the knowledge and the abilities that we've developed over centuries can be applied to aging in the same way that you apply it to heart disease.
Right,
and
did you...
By the way, I totally agree with Paul, and I think maybe we can simply say that we think that aging must be addressed and must be treated as a disease. So from such formulation, from one side, it implies that aging should be anti-aging drugs should be regulated in the same way as drugs against various diseases. But from another side, it's not that radical. And I had a conversation with Moskalev and with some aging researchers, and despite there are some disputes about defining aging as a disease, most of them are okay saying that aging is indistinguishable from diseases and disorders. So we may be not sure that aging is a disease, but actually, if we look into how diseases are defined, we cannot say that aging is definitely not a disease, and it will be easier to protect because in such case the blame of protection is in such case we are in a defensive position, and they have to prove that actually we are wrong.
You know, the thing is that aging does follow the degenerative pathologies of other diseases. It certainly could be defined as such, and this would give us an in. This gives us an into conversation. We're not being abrasive. We're saying that this is what we believe, and I think that we will get more people allying with us and more support by actually taking a stance than by taking a gentle stance, because companies like Calico and other people in the industry do not need a tag-along International Longevity Alliance. They need an industry that's actually doing something for them. And I guarantee we'll get more support by taking a strong stance, not an argumentative stance. But we want to start a conversation, and we want to get noticed. So if we just say...
But public relations is fundamental to their success.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of that's one of the things that we can serve to do.
Right, and that's the thing, is that you have to have something that you can do, and something that they can't get somewhere else, and that would be us. Otherwise,
we're not the scientists focusing on. We support the scientists focusing on this. We understand what they need, and we understand why they should have it.
Right, and we're also supporting the community by taking this stance, because they will get access to medicine that they wouldn't otherwise get. We're supporting the researchers. This would be supporting everyone. If we're just like, well, we agree with this, we're going to be sitting here in 2 years having the same conversations and having very little support besides people who pat us on the back and say, thanks for tagging along.
Okay, so why don't we take a step of reviewing all the arguments which we have reviewed before. If we decide to take this position, it's good. If we decide to take other position, it's also good, but we still need to review arguments. Yes, please.
Oh, sorry.
I will send it by email. There are, for example, papers of prominent gerontologists and geriatrists that aging is not a disease. We need to well, each of us has to see what kind of pros and cons we would have.
Well, we need to make sure that those things are up to date, because the argument has changed a lot over the last year of whether aging is a disease or not.
Oh, perfect. Let's make an update. Wonderful.
Well, I propose
by the way, I also can you also say, Anton, one second, and also it doesn't have to be the position of the ILA. You know, I might very well find it very useful not to talk about aging as a disease and maybe achieve some good results, and somebody else may go with aging as a disease and get some attention. I don't know. I don't think that we should entirely commit and put all our eggs in one basket. That's also something.
That's fine, but I think that
I'm starting to think now that talking about aging as a disease is actually counterproductive, because you can do every single thing that we're trying to do without saying that.
Well, actually, I propose a simple thing. Do you agree that we can simply officially declare, say, and promote that aging should be treated as a disease and should be addressed as a disease?
Yes, I think.
I'm not taking.
I'm not necessarily. I mean, I'm starting to think that maybe we should just like stay away from this word disease, because basically it's a human condition. It's a human physiological condition that creates injustice, that creates that takes away life, that creates poverty, that is going to end up bankrupting the global economy if we don't do anything about it.
Right, but we don't
like that.
I will explain.
All of these, like.
No, I don't think that we have that many words to say it in. I think that we need to be quite simplistic. I think that what Anton is saying is...
How much more simple can I possibly make it?
we don't have that many words to put it in. You either have to take a stance or you don't. We're either going to get noticed for this or we're not. What is our point? If you know, what are we doing? What does the ILA agree on? What is the mission? I think that we need to relook at that and make sure that we're saying something that actually gets noticed. What is the use of
the term longevity is very useful. Yes, please. Okay.
Well, actually, I haven't explained.
I mean, we have spent so much. That's why we've been arguing all these last few months, because about what are we going to talk? What's our relationship to the statement, aging is a disease? This is what we've been talking about over and over again. Well, what if we do the same thing, but not in the same way?
Well,
actually, that's the reason why I propose to declare at least that we think that aging must be treated and addressed as a disease.
Anton,
not talking that aging is a disease.
Let us not take decisions that fast, just on the air. Let us just
explain why I propose this. I propose this for a very simple reason. The reason why we are chewing this disease or not disease topic for so long, because we are not sure how it will work out. Because from one hand we have a lot of possible benefits.
We're making a conclusory statement without explaining, and so basically that's what I see the fundamental problem is. We're making a conclusion without enough tools.
I just want to
explain.
Okay, may I proceed?
Explain you need to lay a foundation.
Mallory, I just want to say that one of the reasons, because that we, from one hand, we see all the benefits. From another hand, we have to come up with really nice argumentation and some support of famous researchers and a lot of other stuff, because this position is very aggressive. And,
right. The riskier the statement, the more that these moneyed researchers and these famous researchers and scientists are going to stay away from us with a 10-foot pole. That's what I'm saying. We need to make
that's why actually, Mallory, that's why if we don't know how it will work out, it's good to make some not dangerous experiment. If we say that that aging should be treated as a disease, we do not say that aging is a disease, but it's very natural that people will ask us, and we will have a nice chance to refine our argumentation and see people's reaction. If we see that actually we are good at convincing people, we will, in some time, maybe in several months, actually when we will be ready, we will simply say that aging is a disease, and there is no contradiction between our previous positions that aging should be treated as a disease and aging is a disease. Aging is a disease is just a bolder statement. If we will see that actually even saying that aging must be treated as a disease, even this creates a lot of quarrels and a lot of discussions, well, we can stay with it, because this statement, it doesn't force us to answer to everybody that actually aging is definitely a disease. Like Aubrey. Aubrey put a position that used a position during this conference that aging can be treated as a Uber disease, but he did not explicitly tell that aging is a disease. And in personal conversation, he told me that he is okay that aging is a disease, but in public conversation, he took a cautious position and didn't say that aging is a disease, and answered something that everything is about damage and so on and so forth. So found a way not to spoil relations with people.
But
Yes.
actually, yes.
Well, let's let Miriam talk. Let's let Miriam talk for a minute because she's had her hand up for a while.
Yeah, but actually everyone agrees, including the governments of nearly every country, that the condition you're in when you're getting older is actually unfavorable, for society, for the economy, and so on. And actually our point is, that with research, development, and implementation of the research and development products, we can actually do something about this unfavorable condition that people are getting into when they're getting older. So actually it's not really about aging or not, it's actually about the final end condition. And actually this is where we want, that's actually our goal, to do something against this final unfavorable condition. And there you also have an argument, we can do something about this unfavorable condition that nobody actually wants. And we can do the same argumentation like, people investing in more car safety and prosthetics and every other things that prevent people from being in an unfavorable condition.
Yeah, and we can also buy into the holistic paradigm. People like the word holistic, right? So that's what we're saying. We're not talking about particular diseases or symptoms. We're talking about the entire human organism, the entire disarray that's happening in it, that it brings bad health and dysfunction. So that's what we're trying to do. We're not fighting, we're building, right? Please.
Yeah, actually, Elia and Miriam, actually the problem is not in a way how people deal with this statement that aging is not a disease. The problem that this statement, if it is promoted and if it is accepted and adopted in the legislation, it just opens a lot of so it destroys a lot of legal barriers, because illegal barriers, because aging is not defined as a disease, they just hides a lot of opportunities for researchers, for insurance companies, and so on.
This is not quite so, by the way.
People,
this is a myth.
Really?
So, yeah, because we had Maxim Holin corresponding with FDA and other regulatory agencies. So I sent this correspondence to you. So this is basically they all responded to him that it is not an issue of aging not being discussed as a disease. It's a good political statement, but at least what they write, it is not necessary to register a drug to have it acknowledged as a disease, to have aging acknowledged as a disease. Please check all this meeting. In fact, if we promote openly, like each and every of us, that and come up to people that aging is a disease, it closes a lot of doors, from geriatric community to government officials. On the other hand, it will be helpful to community in general, of course. So this is basically the two choices.
My problem that I have with this is that aging is one way that people die. Cancer is another way, heart disease, you name it. Every other way that people die is acknowledged to be a disease. Aging is the only way that people die that people say, oh yeah, bravo, he died of old age. Nobody would say, oh, that was great, he died of cancer, So why is this one different?
Yeah.
Well, it's different because it comes down to socio-political and mores from society. It comes down to religion. It comes down to that it's a natural way to die. And going back to Maxim's research, actually, when you do pass a drug through the FDA, you have to say what it is going to be used for quite specifically. And if you don't put aging, which because aging is not considered a disease, the drug is not supposed to be allocated for those reasons. So every drug that goes through the FDA has to have some allocation of what disease it's treating and what the outcome of its treatment is. That's why aging is a disease actually offers a whole nother route of reallocating a bunch of pharmaceuticals that can be used as such. But it's true that we don't see aging as a disease. We don't see it stated that way. And I'm actually really surprised that everybody thinks that this would shut doors and create an argument when everyone I talk to about it and saying that, you know, that I hope that this is what the ILA is enforcing actually is very on. And I think that the fear model is a mistake. I think that we could gently go through Anton's model and we would see that we would probably quadruple in the number of interests, and we probably would get financial backing to send us forward as legislators to bring through some of these ideas. Everyone has to agree on it. If everyone doesn't agree on it, it's not what we're going to do. But generally, when you fear something, in there lies the greatest treasure that you will be able to find. And I think fearing being a group that defines something, especially like aging, as a potential, like, or whatever Anton said, that's a nice, gentle way to start. I think that fearing that is foolish. And holistic, by the way, holistic in the United States is not a good term anymore. That's a worn out term that people are not interested in.
I don't think that any of us are afraid of it. I mean, within our community, you know, yeah, it's easy to talk about aging as a disease. But if you get out to, like, you know, the man in Nebraska, the woman in Virginia, you know, this is the kind of what their only relationship, humanity's only real relationship with these types of drugs is really going to be through the regulatory entities that are responsible for approving those drugs to get to them. They're legislators, all the government. And so basically what we're talking about is crafting a message to government people who hold purse strings and who hold the pen to the legislation, to frame something in a way to them that makes it easy for them to swallow. And saying aging is a disease is going to work in Mountain View, but it's not going to work in Washington necessarily. It's not going to work in Silver Spring when we go to the FDA, or in London when we go necessarily to, you know, the UK regulatory agency, or to Berlin. And so this is what we're trying to say. A rose by any other name is just as sweet, and Paul was making a fine point about that a few minutes ago in the side comments.
Well, actually, you know, I talk to people from all over the world, from small towns and big towns, and I've never had a problem getting them to see the point of aging being a disease.
Yeah, but you have a problem with people who have their cushy jobs at the FDA, for example, have a problem with stating something like that.
I think that this is a conversation that they would like to have, and the difference is I don't start an argument. I start a conversation, and I come in with basic facts, and people like that. And I think that that's exactly why the FDA would want to have this conversation. We have to take a stance that people want to have a conversation about, not just agree with us. I mean, if people are just agreeing with us, they don't really care. Oh yes, I agree with that. But if they're like, if we actually take a stance that starts a conversation, yeah, that might look scary at first, but that gives us a reason to exist.
Well, I have a proposal. I see that some of us are moderate, some are eager to take the risk. So we have ILA, and we have all those, or we will have all those national organizations. And it's common that larger organization, as kind of alliance, is less radical than various its branches. So you will, as I understand, you will register American organization very soon, and I will work on doing the same in Ukraine when I will have time, because actually nobody is working in this direction right now. So we can try to experiment and declare aging that should be treated as a disease with our organizations.
Right.
If this approach will work locally, we will discuss if it is possible to scale to whole ILA.
I think that that's a good idea.
But by the way, if I may say something, you know, as you bring it up, a couple of days ago, the Israeli Longevity Alliance was registered finally. So just thought it would be good.
And I'd like to say, yeah, Anton, one of the things that I don't see, and probably that's why I take my stance, I don't see this as a risk. I see this as our inroads to actually not only getting money, but becoming an institute that makes sense, something that people need, becoming useful. I see no risk in this. I see just the upside advantage. I don't see argument, I see conversation, and that's probably because I'm not very argumentative.
Yeah, this is speaking to who you fundamentally are. But you know,
Yes.
like, I mean, and that's great. But see, the thing is that like, how many other people in this world can take someone and engage them like you can, Liz? That's a special gift that you have as an individual, and that's one of the reasons that I love you as a friend. You know, but not everybody's capable of doing that, because that's not part of their knack in life. So we have to have something that's a universally kind of conveyable platform that it would be impossible to mess up. You know, that's all I'm arguing. I would love to do what you're saying that we should do. I mean, I would love to go in there and be like, aging is a disease. But I think that it's just the same thing as to say aging is a potentially conquerable condition that creates injustice and inequality and poverty and creates risk economically. To me, that sounds the same. It sounds like the same thing.
Right.
May I make a proposal in terms of solving this situation? First of all, let us all review and complete this list of us. I will put it into Google Doc form. And secondly, for now, perhaps each of us could use different set of arguments, and we could see, exchange experience, what really works. Some people would say that this is disease, some people would not, as much as it is comfortable. We will see what works.
Yeah.
I totally agree with Dasha. I think that the best way to convince at least pro-science people is making an experiment. And we have here people like me, like Liz, who are okay with declaring aging as a disease, or at least aging as something that must be treated as a disease and something that is not distinguishable from disease. So we will experiment, and if we will succeed, it will be much easier for us to convince others.
Agreed. So I think that we're at the end of our 2-hour meeting. Is there anything anyone else would like to add?
Yeah, but in any case,
I think that I just think that we started with the stem cells, and we have at least one thing that will not take a lot of effort and time. Check if there are international initiatives like stem cells manifestos, and if there are no such initiatives, we can consider drafting something extremely simple and using it as a way to contact stem cells organizations and let them do most of the work. And promote ourselves as integrators.
Would you be willing to look and see if there are manifestos in stem cells, and then we can allocate who contacts if so?
Can
you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I missed several words.
Anton, since you are advocating that,
Initiative punished by execution, you mean? Actually, sorry, it's just my proposal, but I have no time for it. Sorry,
okay. So we need somebody who does.
I just wanted to ask if anybody is going to take this task. If nobody has time, so let it be undone.
Can I have another practical solution, maybe even more practical? Even without going into this discussion, disease or no disease, we can look at existing programs at regenerative medicine and see if there is anything that that can be addressed or applied to for aging research, not just for particular diseases, but for aging research. And this may be something that is also needed by the research community, just to see what programs in regenerative medicine exist and whether we can squeeze in the topic of aging into it. So I would look at least some projects, but programs. But if somebody
here's what I have to think. Here's what I have to say. I think the best arguments are right here in this room. We are the best argument makers on earth about this. No one else. We are at the forefront of this, and so when I hear us thinking about turning to other sources, the very reason that we're here is because they couldn't do it. They were not able to make the arguments and make the reasonings and explain things in the right way. That's what we're here for.
Except for we can't agree on the explanation. That's the problem. I think that what Anton's talking about is he's talking about going to stem cell sources, basically on stem cells. He's talking about what we talked about before, spanning off and see if there is a professional in that area, if there's somebody who has followed the law and has a manifesto, an international manifesto for stem cell use and what's being regulated and not, so that we're not doing all the groundwork for all of these microcosms that shoot off of longevity, and that we are the resource for longevity and long life and advocating aging as a disease, right, guys?
And Carthago must be destroyed. Please.
You are like a politician. I mean that you repeat often in a hidden way the things that you want to promote, like aging as a disease, or like aging is cellular degradation, and so on and so on. And maybe in some time we already zombie and already.
Yeah, and pretty soon you'll just be repeating what I say. Yeah. Okay. Yes, that is my job.
Anton, do you know how to extract the minutes, or can I just do you know how to basically get the link to this document with the notes? Technical issue.
Oh, well, yeah. We can simply look at recent Google Doc documents, and there should be a link to this document. So I think that probably we should finish, but before finishing, we should decide if anybody will do anything. Just we have some to-dos. If somebody will take, great. If not, well, let's wait for
I'm working on getting connected to Google Calico personally, so that's what I'm gonna do.
No, regarding stem cells, perhaps let's not. Nobody's ready to do anything now. Maybe later we could return to this issue.
Okay, so our main to-do is to have a rest and come up with truly bright ideas.
Okay, so how about this? Mallory, can you actually get all of your documentation together on your cell culture laws and stuff like that, so that we have some basis? I will do
I can do that. I can do that. I can make you a Word document today.
Okay, great. And then what I'll do is I'll do a basic search to see if there are manifestos in stem cell industry and international regulations. If somebody has come up with some sort of basic construct to that, I will go ahead and do that. I don't have a ton of time. Would anyone else, Abby, can you do something on your end, like bringing some of your research into it? And do you have any proofs for or against if aging considered as a disease or not would help bring in funds to your industry?
Yeah, well, okay. I don't want to. I didn't want to interrupt the robust conversation that was going on because
this happens every time.
Yeah. No. Okay. So I'll be very quick because I know that everybody is ready to go, and I have to go as well. Two things. So we have the Stem Cell Consortium here in Oxford, which is called the International Consortium of Stem Cell Network, and David Brindley, a good friend of mine, he's running that. What I will do is either try to get David on here. He's extremely, I would say, camera shy. He works behind the scenes. He's like the man behind the curtain. But I'll see what the International Consortium of Stem Cell Networks and also the Oxford Stem Cell or the Stem Cell Consortium, as it's called, is doing. They have large amounts of money, but I do not know if they have a manifesto. So I can talk to them and see if they do and what they have. The second thing is, when I started doing research on aging, so my PhD and my master's work is all on aging research. I work with mitochondria, skin cells, iPS cells, whatever. I did think like what you guys were talking about, which is aging as a disease, but what I'm trying to do now is to go to high net worth individuals like Google Calico. We should talk later, Mallory. Approach high net worth individuals to fund both PhD research and translational work. So there's an institute in Oxford called CASME, which is working all over the world.
Yeah, I know that guy. I know, what's that guy? Richard, what's his name?
Richard Barker.
Yeah, so he started it. So we're working. We're all working together to. So I'm approaching high net worth individuals, and I cannot have a manifesto. I have to do whatever floats the high net worth individuals' boat. And most of the time, so I haven't approached anyone yet. Not of the caliber that we are thinking of, billions of dollars. Most of the time, as happened with Cultured Meat Project, in case you guys didn't know, Sergey Brin funded the Cultured Meat Eat Out in London. What happens is either they have their own pet project or they build legacy. And legacy is built on disease, not redefining something. So they already have something in mind. So the people that I'm going to approach have either diabetes or cancer or some kind of communicable or non-communicable disease in mind. So I'm just going to go ask money for that and then transfer it to aging research. So I'm far more interested in collecting resources and putting it towards advocacy and research and translational work to bring it out to the market. I would love to see what you guys are talking about, which is to change the public perception and also to change laws. That would be brilliant. But I don't know how to do that. I mean, you guys were having a discussion and I was listening to it, but I'm not as educated as you guys are. So
the thing is that in order to take these research and development dollars that result in progress, scientific progress, in order to make those applicable to the human population, then you need to make those results from the R&D legal to sell, to use for treatment, to be approved. And so, in other words, you have these kind of these barriers that
Mallory, I completely understand. Again, we can talk about more things offline because I realize that this is on YouTube, so I can talk about internal GSK discussions about SRT 1720 and SRT 510, which is the compound that they bought for $750 million, and the problems with that, bringing it out to market. By the way, CASME specializes in this. Richard Barker, David Brindley, they're all working on exactly this pinch point, or they call it gap, how to fulfill this gap. So, yeah, no, I agree with. I agree with everyone here that this is an issue. I just don't have anything that I can add to the discussion that would tilt it one way or the other. So. I'm going to stop talking.
Okay, Miriam, do you have input or how you can follow up?
Yeah, I actually only have a weekend to do something. So one thing I can do is, of course, looking through the documents in regard to assessing the arguments pro and con. What I can also do is, to look around with colleagues who are working in the area of regenerative medicine and so on, and assess, how they stand toward the topic or in regard to the funding situation and so on in the German and EU context. So that's what I could do.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Quickly.
Ilya, in what ways can you follow up, Ilya?
I would really like to see really what kind of regenerative medicine research program exists and whether they can be harnessed to draw attention to aging, to the aging problem, let's call it. And also, I would toward the next meeting review the arguments again for calling aging a disease, not calling aging a disease, but I think we can have both faces, different heads, even the same person. We don't have to, go our heads against the wall. But that's my position. We'll talk more about it many times.
Great. And Anton, I know that you're busy. Is there anything that you can do in follow-up of this meeting?
Directly on this, basically, when are we going to have the next one? In 2 weeks?
Yes, we should be meeting on the 24th of May. Same time.
Well, in the regards of either stem cells or defining aging as a disease, I will probably will have not enough time during next 2 weeks because I have to do some longevity projects that are unrelated to current topic.
Okay.
So I would be a bad guy for these 2 weeks.
I would suggest one proposal that I would like to make is that we spend at least the first half an hour of every meeting in education. And so is there anyone who wants to come forward and want to educate us on something for the first half hour of the next meeting? Maybe there could be a public speaker. I know that Avi said that maybe someone could come to the meeting. Does anyone want to step forward to do that? No. Okay, well, we'll see if we can get a speaker then for it, and I guess we'll have to decide the topic later. How about we put down that on the 24th we'll meet at the same time, and hopefully between here and then we can, each of us will be following up how we said we would, and we'll have that to talk about. Maybe we'll have a speaker that can educate us on something, and we'll allocate the rest of the time probably to deciding whether aging is a disease.
Liz, when you said that a speaker will educate on something, are you talking about legal issues? Are you talking about technical issues? I mean, what particularly?
I'm talking, since this is longevity, this is regenerative medicine, this is the future of medicine, I suggest that we always learn something when we come and don't just go back and forth on the debate. I liked that we learned something about stem cells today and cell culture. If we can find someone to talk, you said that maybe you knew someone who would talk who is a leader in the industry. It's always great that we learn something and don't just
ironically, Liz, who would be a great person to talk about this? David Audley.
By the way,
yeah, we could get him on.
By the way, regarding learning, actually, most of these topics require quite a lot of time to get any expertise. I mean that I'm taking several courses on different topics, and it's truly a lot of time. And I also had So I also just did something about cell cultures in Tish's lab, just some Hello World, and it also takes time. So I think that we can only educate each other only only on some issues or only very, very briefly because it takes time?
You know, it'd be great if you shared your sources of information, where you're taking classes, what information you're coming up with. We should be the professionals in this, at least in a glazed way. We're not going to be stem cell professionals. Well, we've got one already. That's fantastic. Not all of us are legal professionals, but if we can definitely make sure that we've got a smooth butter topping of understanding the issues, that'll be really important for every one of us to understand how we actually affect the world. You can't have an argument or better yet, a conversation without knowing how you affect the many forms of life-saving regenerative medicine and longevity sciences that are out there. So.
Well, actually, if of course, if somebody will be interested, I can briefly explain what is inside the courses I'm taking. I mean, genetic data analysis and several other biological courses.
Oh, that would be fantastic. If you could condense that to 15 or 20 minutes, I think that that would be useful for everyone, especially if you could send diagrams. Okay, guys.
I need to shift gears, guys.
Yeah, so I think that we're done. I mean, I think we're well beyond. Anyone can stay who wants to stay, but I think that what we should all agree on is, can we all meet on the 24th at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do our best then there, and
one question to this. I have to write an article to one popular Russian magazine about do-it-yourself biology. I know that you are also involved in the field. You have participated in kind of local do-it-yourself biology laboratory. Maybe you can write several words about your experience, and I will incorporate it into the article, if you wish, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could just send me one email that just says that, Liz, write a few words on this, I'll actually get right back to you. I just have to have it right in front of me, and it has to be in text. Absolutely.
Okay, splendid.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Liz. It was a great conversation. So I don't know what we will do after that. But what are you, Liz, going to do with it? You know, you are the one that didn't seem to say.
Well, what I'm going to do is what I said. Anton wanted someone to look up to see if any one of these stem cell advocacy groups had some sort of follow-up. Although I think that Abby had a better route, and that's actually going a higher, more professional route. I'm good friends with Richard Barker. I can actually see if they have something at CASPI that addresses stem cells and stem cell use. They're more like an advocacy to getting the treatments out to people, and I can also check the group that he mentioned, which is the Stem Cell Consortium, I believe, and see if there's something on their website. Although obviously, if somebody knows a quicker in or a route to faster information, that would be fantastic, because we are all limited on time, so I will probably only spend a certain amount of time on this. But I will do my best, because we can't get anything done unless we allocate time to getting something done. So that would be it. I am sending out the next meeting date. And anything else anyone wants to add, feel free.
Awesome, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, that seems great. I didn't know you knew Richard Parker, by the way. That's a small world.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. He'll actually be coming here and spending a day or two with me at the end of the month. We used to see each other every month or two, but then he wasn't coming to Seattle as often. So yeah, we get into great conversations.
This is a very small world. We should definitely talk offline.
Great.
Yeah, so this is CASME's, CASME's thing is the Translational Stem Cell Consortium. And you're right,
Okay.
they are more patient-focused, they're more translational focused. Whereas what we are looking for is a little bit lower level.
Right. I have his book somewhere around here that I keep on my desk so that I can always remind him, yes, it's right here, his Future of Medicine book.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he's been a good friend of mine for about a year now. So
That's good.
He's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, he very much is. You know they're funders, right?
I know that he comes here often to speak to the Gates Foundation.
Yeah, so they haven't actually officially funded it, but Sense Foundation is funding them.
Okay.
So that's one big, or that's one funder. So I mean, he's very much interested in aging research and.
And he did speak at Sen 6.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So I could see that, but I'm lucky enough to meet with him regularly because he comes to talk to the Gates Foundation, and I think that they're having a really important meeting this month. So I'm hoping that he'll get some money there. And I've also got him involved in CASME, not CASME, that's his thing, the CBSA, which I'm involved in, which you're welcome to look into because they're always looking for high thinkers, and they're working on the molecular thread theory to disease, actually tracing it back through evolution. So if you're interested in that, please join us there.
Yeah, so when I Google CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency.
Yeah, right, I know. Yeah, this is the, okay. Yeah, I always put in, it's the Complex Biological Systems Alliance. And anyone is welcome to look it up, and if you're interested, please join us.
By the way, the research organization I'm working for is assessing, the possibility to open a new research center in Great Britain. So my question is if anyone has some, background information, especially on biotech, life science opportunities, I would be very happy to get some information because if it would be a center, I would be very much for it that goes to life science.
Okay. I mean, again, we can talk. I'm not sure exactly I understand what you meant by that, but we can talk about it.
So it's like I'm working at Fraunhofer Gesellschaft Research Organization in Germany.
Yeah.
So we are actually assessing, where to open new centers abroad. And right now we are, in the kind of assessment phase in the UK, which opportunities there may be, which topics, which universities to partner with, etc. So I would actually then advocate something on life science. Right now there's a discussion life science or like production technology, and I would prefer life science. So it's like any background information about good research centers that may be interested in partnering, or universities, or like favorable, background argumentations on why UK would be a great position for life science.
Again, Miriam, let's speak offline about this. I mean, but I mean, you kind of know. So the Martin School here in Oxford and the Stem Cell Institute here in Oxford might be, I mean, we were talking about stem cells, but there are other things here as well. So you might, and we have a science park down south for translational stuff. By down south, I mean it's like 3 miles down south, or in kilometers. I don't know what it's in kilometers, but whatever. It's so we can talk about that as far as more specifics and more details. We can talk about the costs involved with it and things.
Maybe you can also write to Pedro because he's running
Liverpool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he can recommend many researchers who do something in aging
Yeah,
and regenerative medicine.
Yeah, there are lots of centers for aging research here in the UK. I am only suggesting Oxford because then I can focus it on actual translational stuff. Whereas much of the other research, I mean, Pedro is fantastic, and I don't mind this going out on YouTube. Yeah, Pedro is doing fantastic research, but there are lots of other research centers or centers of aging research that are nice paper generation machines. So they will generate wonderful amounts of paper whilst we get old and die. So, yes.
Well, actually, there was a discussion and with Pedro during one of the conferences that I attended, and he told very interesting thing about aging and United Kingdom. That from one hand, aging is one of the priorities, and from another hand, actually, they defined aging in so vague way that most of the laboratories that do something that can be very, very, very loosely coupled with aging, they tell that there is something about aging, so a lot of labs that they have research that have nothing to do with aging, they got funded.
Yeah, no, but I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean, the earlier discussion that you guys had about aging as a disease, I mean, this pertains to that. There is no funding currently for increasing human lifespan, which would come with health span. So the discussion on that, I don't even want to go on. If you increase human lifespan, it'll only come from increasing human health span. And there is no institute that has declared openly that it is working on that. The research on aging is purely theoretical, or it is working on a disease like diabetes or something that is a disease of aging, not aging itself. If you are an institute of aging, you cannot, I don't know of any institute that has publicly declared, in the UK at least, and probably North America as well, that it's working on increasing lifespan. So if you want to go out and do something, I suppose you just do it yourself, and that's why I was suggesting. So what I'm trying to do is trying to get funding targeted towards hallmarks of aging. So therapies for hallmarks of aging, which Aubrey calls the sense, the mitosense, the liposense, and so forth and so on. Lysosense, sorry. His 7 sense ideas, but I mean, in another way, we call it hallmarks of aging, which was the paper published in Cell in 2013. So what we want to do is to increase human lifespan, and of course health span. That's a given. And I don't know of any institute that has declared that. So yeah, so that's the objective.
How is your lab called? Because sorry, I do not know you well.
No, you shouldn't. I mean, so my lab works on type 2 diabetes. Specifically, whereas my PhD project is on researching frailty or old age in mitochondria or in old human skin. That was because PhD projects have to be specific. So mine was looking at what happens in mitochondria in skin taken from older people. But more specifically, my lab's focus is diabetes, type 2 diabetes. So.
To be honest, when reading Aubrey's book, I was truly curious why he proposes to genetically modify most of the cells of organisms just in order to prevent some problematic 1% of cells that have defected mitochondria. I do not understand why it's not possible, or just either to kill those 1% of cells or to do something with mitochondrial genome of those 1% cells.
Yeah, so that's a much longer discussion we can definitely have. So Aubrey has proposed an engineering solution to a problem. So that's his way of engineering or solving that problem. So I mean, if you have like if you have cars on the road, they're all trying to solve internal combustion engines in a different way. But what I was trying to say is that nobody, I don't know of any other institute, if Sense Foundation is an institute, which it is now, is doing research or trying to look at solutions that would be implemented in what we would medically call a healthy organism today, or a healthy human today, that would keep them alive or preventatively maintain them for a very long time. So Aubrey's solutions with the Sense Foundation's research solutions are engineering solutions to keep humans healthy for a very long time. It's preventative maintenance. Now, his solution for mitochondrial rejuvenation may not be the most optimal, but no one else is even looking at that. So they're not. They may be working on mitochondria, by the way. Do not mistake me. But they're looking at disease states, mitochondria. So type 2 diabetes or something like that, or cancer, most likely. Most of the mitochondrial work comes from cancer cells. And whereas Aubrey is saying, well, you have a healthy person, and the way to prevent things from happening in the first place is to do this. And I'm not saying that his solution, and even he wouldn't say that he's absolutely sure that his solution will work. That's a engineering solution, one way to get to the endpoint. And there may be many ways to get to the endpoint, but the objective is that instead of just having Sense Foundation, let's have just what we have today, all the infrastructure that we have today in North America, in Europe, in Asia, doing research for preventative maintenance to prevent the disease of aging happening in the first place.
Yeah, I truly agree with you. So I think that the main achievement of Aubrey is treating aging as engineering problem, as maintenance problem. Not even stuff that he proposes, but the way how he defines. And I was a bit surprised when I read Hallmarks of Aging and saw a lot of things that Aubrey talked about many years ago in that paper.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So once again, thanks for the great talk, and let's reconnect. Would it be okay, Miriam, with you?
Yeah, okay. Who will invite? You'll invite us?
Yes, I will invite you, Anton. Who else wants to talk about the German Transhumanist Association?
I'd like to hear about it.
I had some people interested. I will check if they are online. No.
Awesome. Miriam, you have my ID. You
Yes.
can we can chat later about Oxford if you want to.
Yeah, great. I will contact you because I have to clarify it anyway with
no
my
worries.
people, but I may contact you on that.
Yeah. No worries.
Thanks.
Okay,
And then I would.
We will reconnect very soon. Or what is Ilya's proposal about?
What? So I'll call you, Anton, and you, Miriam, right? Nobody else wants to, or somebody else?
In how many minutes?
In 5 minutes. Is okay?
Okay.
Okay.
It will be.
And then whoever has access to the YouTube should either edit it and edit off the beginning and the end, or they should remove it now that we are done with the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Liz.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
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 See you.
See ya.